So this is going to be the first in hopefully a series of videos about quote unquote basic fighter maneuvers and blah 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 blah. It's gonna be about dogfights. It's gonna be about duels. And this isn't gonna be a recreation of the Requiem series that goes into like every little minutia detail thing, and it's not going to be a recreation. Hopefully, not a recreation of the Zelator videos because I think both of those series are good enough to stand on their own, and I'm not trying to um, do something that's already been done. I'm trying to do something that's a little bit newer and more applicable directly to War Thunder and not just to theoretical dogfighting anyways, because I think the discussion in War Thunder context around dogfighting is kind of pretty limited, where kind of a lot of the times these discussions will turn into like a verbal tic-tac-toe back and forth of like, I will do X and then you will do Y, which will be countered by Z. And a lot of the times people don't have the ability to put it all together. Like the Requiem guide is really good for the pieces, but there's not a lot out there about putting it all together. And we're going to hopefully attempt to start to solve that. Now, the biggest thing that I have with why I don't really focus on calling it BFM or saying one circle, two circle, red circle, blue circle, all that kind of crap is because that kind of terminology really gets in the way of thinking in a way that's more effective. It's much more effective to look at dogfights and look at symmetrical dogfights, especially as things like, are you being aggressive or are you being passive? And the difference between those two is more or less philosophical. It is also a difference in the way that you pursue an opening, in the way that you are you trying to go for the first attack, or are you trying to go for a second attack? Or are you trying to end up in a position where the other guy has no defensive options from? Or are you looking for just the correct amount of spacing to rip your flaps out and go for the first attack that you see? Now, there's some validity to like all those kind of playing styles, and there are times when you transition between being aggressive to passive, and there's sometimes where you're like, okay, cool, I need to play energy here in order to get an advantage, or try to, because one of the things that I do is I don't just practice against people that are worse than me all the time. That's not necessarily fun. I try to practice against a lot of people that are better than me, that are much further in depth and further down the old dueling iceberg. And the guy that I'm practicing against here, he's actually teaching me some shit. And like, if you heard it in voice chat, it's actually really funny because I don't think he doesn't speak English, but he knows some English. So like the tutoring is really just, we're really just focused on what I would call like the opening. The opening, if you want to be like, okay, the opening phase, you could think of a duel as having an opening, having basically a point where both players either have maximized the energy or have fought for position after the opening, a mid game, and then an end game. And then there's also like an attack and a counter attack cycle, depending on where you end up. And philosophically, the idea behind an opening is you're trying to kill the other guy, or you're trying to defend so that the other guy that's trying to kill you puts himself in a position where he goes for an attack, he cannot hit the attack, and then you end up in a position that he can't really defend from. And if you paid attention to the first couple of duels, you did see that. And what I've been working on here, and what I've been being taught, is more or less how to build a really strong opening in the vertical. This whole diving merge and then going up is one of the more viable openings for the BF-109 fighters. And the BF-109s are really good for practicing in because they have the right mixture of turn rate, climb rate, engine power, all of the ergonomic stuff. They have like a bunch of tricks that you can do in them as well, where being aggressive, being passive are both equally viable. It is perfectly reasonable to more or less full deploy landing flaps into a very early attack in the 109, as is you can just keep them tucked in and try to run the other guy out of energy. Now the thing is, if you've paid attention, just to kind of like the background footage, is like if I get a good attack in the vertical here, and if Biscuit here isn't able to defend against it, I win. But on the other hand, my attack's not that good. My attack oftentimes puts me into a position where the slight advantage in energy that he has is something he's easily able to capitalize on. So it becomes like this back and forth, a push and pull of, can I attack, or do I need to defend, or do I need to play energy? Now, all of that is probably a lot for someone to take in, especially if you are on the newer side of Sim, or if you're on like the newer side of like just dogfighting in general. It is not uncommon for me to go up against newer players and win by like ridiculous ratios at this point, because I've practiced this quite a bit, and I'm pretty decent at it, but I'm not going to say that I'm the best, because I have two Korean dudes in my server that absolutely destroy me on a regular basis, and this is one of them. But, hey, we're learning. Now, as far as it is applicable to enduring confrontation, is it makes you a better pilot. It makes you better at the act of actually flying the airplane, because you have to fly it throughout the whole entire flight envelope, while also doing it under pressure, and also forcing yourself to take shots that would normally be pretty uncomfortable. And what this results in, it means that as I have gained more experience, my dogfights in EC are shorter, they're faster, and it also means that when people make mistakes, when they do something really dumb in the opening, or they're going for some kind of strategy, and you can kind of see it like ahead of time, it means that it ends up being a lot easier to counter. I think a good example of that is like when you see a BF-109 player and you're in something like a P-47, you've got a nose-to-nose merge, and the guy goes like straight up all the way. And you're looking at him, you're like, dude, I'm going like the same speed as you. You just pitched up, and you just think you're going to stall me here. Let me just climb up to you and just shoot you in the ass. Oftentimes, stuff like that does happen. It also means that as you improve, your ability to defend against attacks, your ability to work your way out of bad situations, becomes a lot better. It becomes a lot more viable. It means that a lot of planes that end up being kind of like mediocre, or planes that are frustrating to fly against, end up being something you can exploit. Like I've had like dudes in zeros get really mad at me for turn fighting them with like a P-47, because they would go out a little bit too far, and I'd be able to cut in and just basically hold the trigger down as they pulled in for a head-on in a plane that's not good at the head-on. So outside of reading every book and watching every Growling Sidewinder video ever, don't do that, by the way, it is completely pointless to watch all of that, the best way to actually get good at this is simply to go out and practice, and practice against people that like know what they are doing. Practice against people that can actually articulate the mistakes that you're making. And there is a kind of like, there's a phase to it. Like when I started out, I had trouble doing things that were as basic as controlling the plane. I would very typically see an attack and then over pull into it, and I'd wing stall and the wing would dip, and I'm like, oh nope, now I lost all the position I had, and I am kind of falling out of the sky. Now, I'm not completely immune to doing that still. I have not completely tuned out that tendency. It's something that happens quite often. The same thing with the whole ripping the flaps thing. I get a little bit too greedy. I'm a very greedy person in the dogfight. But there are things that I am tuning out. As you start doing something as simple as mastering an opening, as simple as being able to make it more than the first two turns and maintain a neutral position, or maintain a positive position, you like just gain an angle on someone just to potentially get a shot, is kind of like, that's kind of the first step, is just being able to register that there's an attack against someone and being able to at least attempt to take it. And then the second part of it is recognizing when you're being attacked and being able to fly around it and attempt to evade it, and hopefully you can evade it into a position that sets you up for a better attack. Now, that's not always possible. Like right there, I thought there was an attack. there was not an attack. There was no way I was pulling that. I thought I was going to get one. Didn't get it. I'm in a bad position. I'm trying to defend. And because Biscuit's really good at attacking, because I'm in a position where I can't really defend from, like, I have to play a rate fight here absolutely perfectly. Hope that he misses. Hope that he gasses his plane out. Like, he has to make a mistake from where he is in this, like, in our turning circles right now. And that's just not going to happen. But that is part of the learning process. Part of the learning process is taking some painful L's and going back and looking at the replay and looking at it and trying to analyze, like, what went wrong, what went right. And the thing is, I'm comparing myself to a guy who I kind of consider this guy to be the GOAT as far as sim dueling goes, at least currently. There's a couple of people that are probably in the running, like I think Sam Kiss, who's some Russian dude, is in the running. Aaron Freeman, if he came back from doing K-pop videos, would definitely be in the running. Underscore Ace underscore the other Korean guy, definitely in the running. But like, watching Biscuit duel is like, it's a lot of fun to watch because like the way that he controls the plane is, number one, like the whole front flip thing in the beginning, that shit was goofy as hell, like holy crap. But his reactions, his timing is much better than mine. It also forces me to basically play the way that I normally do, but just do it faster and do it under pressure. And after dueling Biscuit for a couple of hours or whatever, I did get appreciably better. I did tune out some of the things that I was doing wrong. Does that mean that I'm perfect? Does it mean, wow, I'm the greatest? Oh, look how great I am. No, there is still a lot of stuff, even looking back on this, that I need to improve on. Anyways, that's all I really have for you today. I just wanted to introduce everyone to kind of some, not necessarily terminology, but kind of introduce a mentality that I have more or less co-opted from the RB side of the house of the RB daring community. And I have taken it, and I'm going to claim it as my own because I'm a hack and a fraud, but you got to see you got to see me lose a lot, so don't think I'm invincible. But also, I can use this video to hopefully commentate on some other things in the future, and maybe you come away from this feeling a little bit more educated, feeling a little bit more willing to try out some new things and go out and practice dogfighting, because holy crap, is the skill base in the sim community is really, really low right now. And I think I would like to see that change. I would like to see more interesting fights happen, quote unquote, in the wild. But until people start getting serious about practicing, at least to like a semi-competent level, it's not going to happen yet. But we're going to get there. Anyways, like the channel, subscribe, or don't. It'll be fine. I don't make any money off of this anyways. I don't need your charity. Join the Discord. Okay, bye.